Hey, welcome back to the show. This is Phil. I'm here with Christian Taylor.
Hey.
Hi. That is not a bright color.
Nope, I'm muted today.
Oh, okay. And Sky Jitani.
Hi.
Who has glasses on his head.
I took the
if
deer
you're watching
glasses.
the video.
See that?
Yeah, those were the sunglasses that our deer was wearing, and now Sky is wearing.
I look like a villain from Miami Vice.
You look like a villain from a cheap 80s music video.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he needs like a Devo hat to really rock it.
I'm like the ethnic
one.
Max Headroom.
I have a Devo hat right over there on the shelf.
We'll add that next week.
Okay, we'll add that
I was
next week.
commenting earlier, it's amazing how well you can actually see out of these.
Yeah, you can see, well, like the window clings in restaurants where you can't see in, but on the inside you can see out perfectly.
Right.
It's
Right.
weird. It's weird. It's crazy weird. Or bus wraps that cover the windows. Because they're
wraps.
darker on the inside, and we perceive light, and we cancel out dark with our... Anyway, hey, it's a podcast. What do you know? Hey, it's a podcast. And we got video. Hey, it's a podcast. So lend an ear. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. We'll talk to Sky and Christian, too, and we've got no guest, not today, for you. Hey, it's a podcast. Lend an ear. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. The Phil Vischer podcast starts right here. Somebody asked that I do the theme song as Larry the Cucumber in Spanish from the Dance of the Tomato. Dance of the Tomato. Dance of the Cucumber. It's an old silly song where Larry sang in Spanish.
But you don't do Larry. Or you do a version.
I don't do Larry and I don't do Spanish.
But you did a version of Larry.
yeah,
once,
hey, I play Cucumber.
which just sounds a little bit like Percy P.
Or whatever, yeah. Well, that's my Larry. Well, let's hear your Larry. What's your Larry?
This is my brother Daryl. This is my other brother Daryl.
You could make an Indian Larry. That would be funny.
Yeah, but he won't do it on air.
I know. I really
won't do it
What?
on air.
You know what? If we didn't have the video going, I probably would. But I think I have to contort my face in such a way that it just looks ridiculous.
Let me see. I'll be the judge of that.
No.
You keep hiding behind that excuse.
There's many things I would do if we didn't have video.
Jennifer Crosby wrote us a letter after listening to last week's podcast
What'd she say?
and said, "Why so hard on hunting? Is it because it's an alligator and not an elk? Do we know that the family was hunting for sport? Alligators are big business. If the animal's being used, I think it's a way more meaningful activity than pro sports. And if the family needed the money, why not thank God?"
So you've offended the pro gator.
The pro gator hunting contingent in our audience. And then she posted an update. The alligator yielded a couple 100 pounds of meat, some of which is going to charity.
Yielded. It sounds like it just surrendered
All right.
it.
Like it vomited.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some meat. P.S. It also had a whole deer carcass in its stomach.
That's like a turducken.
Kind of.
You got the deer inside the alligator and inside the
So
deer.
they should have deep fried the alligator whole.
Yeah.
And then it would have been venison. What's the name for alligator meat? Is there a special name like venison?
I think it's alligator meat.
No.
I think it's alligator.
But, okay,
Gaton.
I thought that the reason why we have different words for animals and their meat is because of the Franco-English thing. When the Normans came into England, they brought some French words with them. So, like, in English, it's a pig, but the meat is pork, and beef is from French, and cow is from English, and so you get this kind of mix match.
Really?
But I don't think they did that with alligator.
Is it because the French were doing all the cooking?
Right.
Is that why?
Right. Well, the sophisticated rulers of England at the time who spoke French used the French
And
words.
so chicken is chicken.
It's just chicken.
It's just chicken.
Poultry.
Or poisson in
Poultry.
French.
Poultry. Poulton. La poisson is fish.
Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, right, not chicken.
Remember from Little Mermaid?
Les
poissons. I love les poissons.
First you cut off the head, then you pull out the guts.
Yes.
Right? That whole
No,
thing?
I don't think.
I think that's how it went. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Not a
guts was the
French
word.
No,
So
it's in there.
My response to her, because it was a good point, and I even thought about it at the time, why do I think they shouldn't have, did I think they shouldn't have shot the largest gator ever in Alabama, or do I think they shouldn't have thanked God for having shot the largest gator?
So you clarified your thoughts.
And my clarification was, it's like if there's a lake and there's a legendary fish in the lake, and it has a nickname because people have seen it for years.
Like Loch Ness.
Yeah, or Big Bertha, or Old Man Jones, or whatever. But it's
Snuffleupagus.
this huge fish, and you actually catch it. You actually catch the huge fish. I think now 50 years ago, the typical response is stuff it, mount it, put that legendary fish on your wall. And now I think there's more appreciation now for actually, wow, that thing has had to live a long time to get that big. Put it back in, so that other people could have a chance to see it. Other people could maybe catch it.
So you think they should have left the gator alone?
I think it should have been catch and release.
And still thank God for it?
So they would pick it up. The question is, what are you thanking God for? And someone, I think Solomon commented and said, I would have thanked God if the gator had tried to kill me first, and then I killed it. Then I would thank God.
What about 1 Corinthians 10?
Which says, kill the gator?
Whether you eat or drink or kill a gator, do all to the glory
of God. The glory
of God.
Well, that means make your choices based on what will glorify God. So then the question is, if you find, like if you're going through a redwood forest and you realize you've just found the tallest redwood tree on earth, should you say, hey, let's cut it down? It's the tallest. You say, no, that's just, wow. That's amazing.
Look what God did.
Yeah, look what God did. Thank you, God, for this giant redwood tree. Let's go find a shorter one to cut down. That was my point. But just get, common gators. Go hunt common gators.
So you were more upset that they killed the gator than the fact that they thanked God for it.
I think it was odd to say God gave us.
I thought the whole story was just a giant stereotype wrapped
in bacon,
in a Christian
fried
bow.
Inside an alligator.
It's just people have this perception of Southern hillbilly-ish people as hunting gators and thanking God for everything, and it just kind of it was one of these.
We've gotten in trouble for that,
I know, but that's why I thought you brought that story
up. And you're
up.
supposed to give us permission to joke about
I usually feel
South.
like, since I am one, I can, chime in, because I do think there are both. However, that being said, it is important to be culturally sensitive and not stereotype people. I respect that.
I was talking about very specific people.
But I agree with
people you. About which part? Oh, it seemed like a kind of a funny combination of Southern
The only
life.
thing missing is they had to strap the gator on top of the General Lee and drive it home.
Yeah, and go to a football game, a high school football game on the way home.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not anti-hunting. I'm not, and I actually took, my son wanted to go hunting, wanted to learn to hunt at one point. Like he was a freshman in high school, and I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, man!" And so we took the class that you have to take for hunting safety. And you learn things like how they decide, how many deer licenses to give out in a year. It's based on birth rates for deer and what the population is, and that you're actually managing the deer population. But in the same way, there's the mentality that wants to find the biggest, most beautiful, deer possible, and then put that on my wall. And then there's the mentality that says, wow, look at that amazing deer. Let's let that one go. That's too beautiful.
Yeah, you just don't strike me as the hunter type.
No, I didn't want to go. Did
you ever actually end up hunting?
No, we never did.
You took the class and that was enough.
We took the class, and they played a film on gutting a deer.
And that's when you decided to do the cardboard animals instead.
And I was like, And if you notice, I mean, they're clean shots through all of those cardboard animals where I took them down with one clean kill shot right behind the. So I'm not anti-hunting, and I'm not anti-gator. If the gator was robbing a bank, I would say take it out. Absolutely, take that gator out, and then praise God that you saved the bank.
Well, you're also not
sure
against praising God or giving God thanks for things either.
Definitely not anti-praising God or anti-gator hunting. I'm just, if you find a remarkable specimen of God's creation, I just don't know that the first response should be, I want to kill it and then take it home. Which was more, and that was common in the 19th century, where you go to the Galapagos Islands and you say, wow, tortoises, kill one. Let's take it back to England.
That's why we should all be grateful for souvenir shops. Because it prevents tourists from killing things and bringing them home.
Right.
Now we just get little shot glasses
like
and
if
refrigerator magnets.
I actually got a little snow globe when I went to New York, which saved me from, cutting down the Statue of Liberty or
killing a rat, a subway rat.
Or a subway rat. Right. I just brought my little snow globe home and I was happy.
Yeah.
So get a snow globe of a gator.
Yeah.
Or have you ever been to the Field Museum? You've been to the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. Yep. Have you been through the old exhibits of stuffed animals?
Yes.
They're a little boring.
Well, yeah, but they're kind of, if you actually start reading about them, there are hundreds and hundreds of taxidermied animals.
They have the lions from that movie, The Ghost in the Darkness. Remember that?
The
rogue lion. Oh my goodness!
I don't even know about that.
They also
never even heard
you can go there, and they actually have there's stuffed mounted animals that are extinct now. They have stuffed mounted Mexican grizzly bears. Those are extinct. There aren't anymore.
Well, maybe if they hadn't stuffed them, they would still be alive.
Yeah, but aren't we grateful they did stuff them so we can still see them?
Before we extincted them.
You know, it's tomato, half empty, half full.
And what's amazing to me is that, because you're kind of shocked at first. It's like, wait, is that legal? How could you have, these were endangered creatures. The point is they were stuffed in, 1905. They're now they're about 100-year-old stuffed.
They're grandfathered in.
They're grandfathered in. Yeah, and back then that was how you collected animals. That's what it was called.
For study.
Yes,
yeah.
Because you couldn't necessarily, you might not have been able to transport them around the world alive. So to study them, you collected them, which meant kill them and drag them back home so you can study them. And we don't do that anymore because the mentality of how we approach wildlife has changed. If you find a new species, you don't immediately kill it and drag it home. You try to see
take pictures.
You take pictures.
Or videos.
So there's a difference in mentality. And I think that's, when I read that story about, hey, it's the biggest gator we've ever seen, quick, shoot it in the head and let's drag it home. It feels more 19th century to me. But that may just be because I'm more of an urban northerner. Maybe.
Could be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you have any? Is there anything that the Bible says about this guy, besides "Do all to the glory of God"?
I don't think so.
I think is one of the more misapplied verses in the Bible.
I don't know much about. Where is this? Mississippi?
Alabama.
I don't know much about ecology in Alabama.
Biggest gator ever in Alabama.
But I'm guessing there's no shortage of alligators.
No, there aren't.
So it's not like an endangered species.
But you know how many years it would take for one to get that big? 1,000 pounds. 15 feet. It's probably
many
a 40-year-old gator.
Yeah, but what's the difference between that and fishing? And
if you find a 40-year-old fish, catch and release.
The ocean is so big. You don't know there aren't bigger fish out there. How do you know that's the biggest?
There's always bigger fish out there.
That's right.
And there's always more fish in the sea.
Okay, enough about that. What do you think? Should we, even if you're hunting, you find the biggest, most beautiful buck you've ever seen, is your tendency to say, I want that on my wall, or is your tendency to say, wow, I'm going to let that one go?
Let me just say, from a long line of hunters,
you want it on your
wall.
The
ones I know and the ones I live around have them on their walls.
Yeah, okay.
Because it is...
But is it just bragging rights?
Kind of.
Because that seems... Doesn't it seem just a little bit...
It's like, look what
self-centered?
I caught.
Is it a little...
And mine is bigger than yours.
Yeah, but
that is, mine has more points than yours.
I think with digital technology now, we can all record video. Like you see it on YouTube all the time. People catch some huge shark or something, and they record it on video, and they release it. But they have the video evidence.
So we don't need to stuff things anymore to prove that we caught them.
But think about people that take pictures of all of their safari, lions and giraffes, not giraffes, but
and the whole culture has kind of turned on that now. Like Teddy Roosevelt used to go to Africa, and that was just what you did. I want to bag an elephant. I want to bag a zebra. I want to bag one of each.
Right.
I'm playing bag the African species bingo here.
It's because they didn't have souvenir shops yet. This was the only thing.
The culture has changed so much that. Did you read the story about the girl who was discovered at the World Cup? Because she was model material, and so L'Oreal or Lancome or somebody gave her a modeling contract because she was discovered in the stands at the World Cup. And then someone noticed on her Twitter feed a picture of her with like a gazelle that she had killed in Africa, and everything was shut down. So, nope, never mind.
Like she had done the most immoral thing imaginable.
Like we didn't realize you were immoral. Yeah. So now you can't be a model anymore. It's
wow.
Like, wow, that's 100 years ago you would have said, wow, she's a tough cookie.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Now you say, sorry.
That's a good woman right there.
You just disqualified yourself from displaying our cosmetics because you hunted legally. That's kind of weird.
And it's a gazelle. I mean, they're
a dime a dozen.
Yeah, exactly.
I can go down to Walgreens and get 10 gazelles.
They're like the candy corn of the animal kingdom. It's like the cheapest, most throwaway Halloween candy you can get.
No, I would put flamingos in that category.
Yeah. Flamingos are more like marshmallow peeps.
Yeah, they are.
They're neon colors because they eat shrimp.
Yes.
There you go. What if they ate grass? Then they'd be green.
They would.
They'd be like
they're not like white carnations. You just put them in food coloring water and they take on.
They are.
I think it'll
like
be
that.
interesting to see what happens with the turkeys that walk in my yard. I have
You have turkeys?
16 every morning. I wake up.
Wait a minute. I've been to your house.
Yeah.
I didn't see any turkeys.
That's because you weren't there at 6 in the morning or at 6 at night.
Where do they go?
Do you back up against a forest preserve?
Nope. They sleep.
Yeah, you're in a neighborhood.
I know. They sleep in these huge, gigantic trees, and I've been seeing them every morning. So I started reading.
Whoa, slow down.
Yeah, they stay on my roof too.
How do they get up there?
Turkeys can't
fly.
Oh, yes, they can. Even tiny
Have you
little
not seen
babies.
WKRP in Cincinnati in the famous episode when they drop the turkeys out of the helicopter?
I missed that one, but they can fly.
Are
especially
you sure these are turkeys?
I'm 100. I have pictures on my phone that I will show you after the podcast.
Okay.
But they are the cutest one is about this big. Like it's really tiny. Like
she's holding her hands down to a small size.
Like it's a little bit bigger than this mug.
Yeah, people that can't see don't even know how big your mug is.
Right. So anyway, they forage all up and down the street. They walk through the neighbors' yards, and then sometimes they walk across the street. Well, when the dogs come out, they fly away.
Are you sure these aren't geese?
Nope, they're turkeys.
Canadian geese?
They're turkeys. I've seen their things. And this year there's two families. One family has 8 little birds, and the other has 4.
How do you know there are 2 families or just not a modern family?
Because you have 2 males and 2 females.
They could be polygamists.
With a lot of, they could.
They're same-sex couples?
You said 2 males and 2 females.
There's 4. Right. There's 4.
Oh. Okay.
Together.
This is getting
but anyway.
Disturbing.
But my whole point was I started reading about their habitats because I was like, in the middle of the day, they disappear.
Yeah, where do they go?
Right. Well, I watched them. I've been tracking them.
Okay.
And they live in this specific tree. And at night, the parents heard all the little things up to the top of this one house. So they fly up there, and then they fly to the tree in the back, and then they fly down in the morning. And I read that they like nuts and berries and seeds. So I went to the
You went to Whole Foods or something.
I went to Target.
To the turkey food store.
And I got nuts and berries and seeds, and I threw them in my yard, and they've been there all morning. And I wondered, what will they be after if I do this like for the rest of the month?
You'll completely change their natural behavior.
This has turned into the Phil Vischer Animal Kingdom podcast. What is going
Wild
on?
Kingdom with Marlon Perkins.
Have you talked to any of your neighbors about these turkeys?
Yeah, they actually have a Twitter feed now. Somebody made a Twitter for Mr. Turkey.
So other people can see them.
Yes.
I just want to make sure we establish.
Yes, other people can see them.
Can other people hear them talking?
They hear them gobbling.
Okay, gobbling.
This is messed up. Because there's a lot of coyotes in Wheaton.
I know, it's shocking to me that they
we may have some stories this week. Or we may,
other than animal stories.
Or we may just be talking randomly because we don't have any stories, but not much happened. But some stuff happened. Christian.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of the VMA Awards on Sunday night?
I purposefully chose not to.
I watched a little. It's Video Music Awards on MTV because it's the 1-year anniversary of Miley Cyrus. When we talked about Miley Cyrus kind of going nuclear.
Which is it's sort of the celebrity New Year. That's when they mark their calendar.
It is, right. And that was one of the major turning points of Western civilization in its decline.
So
was
now we
Miley
have
Cyrus and Robin Thicke on the VMA Awards a year ago. Afterwards, Robin Thicke's mother said, "Those are images I wish I could erase from my mind."
But can we not talk about that anymore? Let's move on.
No, we're not talking about that. So,
was there an homage? Was there a?
Do you remember when we talked very briefly, and I won't bring it up ever again, about Nicki Minaj?
Yes.
And her new album?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I wasn't going to watch. I wasn't going to pay any attention. I was going to completely ignore it, except there was a news item the day before that one of Nicki Minaj's backup dancers was bitten by a snake during rehearsals for the VMA Awards.
That's been done before, too, though.
Because they were no, you're thinking of Michael Jackson's hair catching on fire.
No. I'm thinking of Britney Spears.
Was she bitten by a snake?
No, but she danced with a snake
she had a snake
at the VMAs, didn't she?
Yeah.
So were they taking all the most salacious? Was there someone in a meat dress dancing with a snake and twerking all at the same time? Was that kind of the goal?
No, there was twerking though. So I'm watching football on Sunday night. Like the manly man that I am.
Right after your hunting expedition.
I was building a puppet, actually, which is similar, stuffing something.
Right.
Okay, so I was watching football, and then it occurred to me, and I just said it out loud to my wife, the VMA Awards are on right now. And she said, oh, let's check it out.
This could be
my
fodder
wife
for the podcast.
said, let's check it out. And I thought, I don't really want to, but, okay, we'll just flip over and see. And it was, so we ended up watching quite a bit because, you couldn't look away. You couldn't.
Kind of like a train wreck?
Look away. So it started with Nicki Minaj doing her song Anaconda that all the teenage girls are now singing, which is basically a song celebrating her butt. It's like the album cover. It's all about her butt. It's a song about butts. And then the show ended with Beyonce dancing on a stripper pole with 5 other girls dancing on their own stripper poles while her toddler daughter watched from the audience. Okay, so that's fun. The majority of the acts were female. I mean, there are fewer and fewer male acts getting scheduled, which is funny because male performers have often been dominant at different parts of music history. For example, worship music. Female-led worship music is very rare. You don't even hear it on Christian radio. But in the VMA Awards, now it's more and more female-centric, and it's because of the sexuality of the acts. Mm-hmm. Because guys, a guy in a tank top, and hot pants just isn't all that appealing. But a girl in a tank top and hot pants is appealing, and that's kind of what the VMA Awards have become about. But almost everything we're in a strange period of pop culture where people's butts have become like the focus of their existence. So 2 days after the VMA Awards, Jennifer Lopez announced she was doing a remix of a song with Iggy Azalea. Do you know who she is? She was on there too.
That's a girl?
It's called Booty. The song is called Booty. It is a song about butts, and it was done years ago.
It could be about pirate treasure.
No, it's not about pirate treasure or the snack food at Trader Joe's. Oh. It's about butts. So they're doing songs about butts.
But that's not really new.
The dance numbers are about butts.
Really? I like big... I cannot lie.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back for many years.
What's the history of butts in pop culture?
And Jennifer Lopez and a whole bunch of other women, that is their calling card. That's what they're known for.
Just their butt. My butt.
And that's why there are so many prosthetics
that is
on the market.
There's so many? What, are they at the store? How do you know there's so many?
Hey, do you read Sky Mall? Pal?
I do.
I do. Sky Mall?
I flew twice this last week.
You can buy butt inserts out of Sky Mall.
No.
Yes, you can.
I've seen them. They have that.
And they have them for guys, too, now.
No, I saw the guy underwear that's like a lift kind of thing.
For the back end?
For everything.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But there's no inserts.
Yes, there are.
Really?
They have pockets for putting padding so you have a bigger butt, and I cannot lie.
They now make chicken cutlet type material. That's what they look like.
Or turkeys.
It's what they feel like, and they are pretty much for any part of the body you'd like to
The dog is following me around because I have chicken cutlets in my butt inserts.
Okay.
Panels.
I'm not sure about this whole conversation, to be quite honest with you.
I'm just saying it's nothing new.
It's nothing new, but it's just big. But, TT, it just seems to be out of control. It's like MTV is making it their identity now. Here's how we get people to watch butts. So I thought that the show should actually be renamed, instead of the VMA Awards, should be renamed No, Look at My Butt as the new name for the show.
The competition?
It was a string of female dancers and female performers wanting us to look at their butts.
They should all just perform backwards.
It's backwards.
Facing the other way.
That's a good idea. So we couldn't see their butts?
No. So their backs are facing...
Oh, no, they made sure that we could see their butts. Trust me, Sky.
Trust me. I'll tell you where I have seen this in my own life this week.
Yeah. Your husband? Has he been
No, it was
parading around the house? Okay.
Teenagers walking down the street in Wheaton.
Yeah.
And,
God's country.
And 2 of them had on pants where the butt was cut out.
What?
They were pants, though. We've talked about this in the past. The glass bottom pants. Yeah.
But there was no glass there. It was just and so apparently there are fashions now that
I know.
I mean, like,
did you see underpants?
There was none.
It was just skin.
Yeah, just skin. And I have my two, my 15-year-old and my 13-year-old in the car.
Yeah.
And
is that legal?
What? That's what I said. I was like, is that even legal? And my 13-year-old's like, what? And I'm like, nothing, not a thing. And my 15-year-old said, that should not be allowed.
That's why I always carry spray paint with me. So if you see something like that, you just...
So speaking of...
My spray paint is called Butt Be Gone.
That's what we needed.
It's a butt cover-up.
Yeah.
So we were eating dinner a few weeks ago in Wheaton, in downtown Wheaton at a certain Mexican restaurant that has outdoor seating. And a lot of people were walking down the street, and we saw group after group, really they were packs of teenage girls whose shorts were so short. We sound like this grumpy old...
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Back in my day.
Yeah, Pat Robertson.
Yeah, but their shorts were so short that the pockets...
Hang out the bottom.
Right.
And... And they all have their cell phones sticking out the back pocket, but there's the pocket. Fit. Yeah, and I'm like, you get any shorter, I don't know where you put your cell phone.
Well, you apparently just cut the back end out, and then you just use your front pockets, I guess.
I had a roommate in college one year. He had this pair of jeans that
Did he cut his back end out?
Well, kind of.
I was supposed to do that to a deer after I watched this video. That's the first thing you have to do is cut their back end out.
Oh,
so
man.
He had these jeans that he really liked, and they kept getting holes in them, and he refused to get rid of them. Finally, he ended up ripping all the denim off the jeans, except for the waistband, the pockets, and the seams on the side, the inseam and the outseam, and the ankle. So they called them seam jeans.
Interesting.
And he wore them?
He wore them.
Outside?
Yeah. So they were just like these seams.
Well, I think what's sad is, and maybe the question you're asking is, what have we come to?
And what was interesting is they gave Beyonce like the last 10 minutes. She did a collection, a medley of like her entire new album. And then they gave her, the Impact of the Year, whatever award. She got a special award. So she did this long, long thing. And in the middle of it was a little bit about feminism. And I don't know if it was intentionally because people criticize her for, that's not what feminism is. But she basically, it says, you say women can't be aggressive like men can be aggressive. You say, women can't do what men can do. And you say women can't be sexual in the same way that men are sexual.
What?
Yeah, and so that was apparently the justification for, and this is why I'm dancing on a stripper pole on TV with my 4-year-old daughter
because
watching.
I'm a liberated woman.
Because that's liberation, and I'm trying to think, when are men sexual like that? Unless the only men you know are Chippendale dancers. I'm not sure what you're referring to, because men that are that sexual are typically predators. To be honest,
right?
We're elevating female sexuality to a level that you could only compare it to the sort of men that we lock up. And if you've seen, Nicki Minaj, her new album, her new video dropped and broke the record set by Miley Cyrus a year ago. Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball video where she's naked on a wrecking ball, busting through walls. Okay, that set the record for most YouTube views of a music video in the first 24 hours, with 16 million views in 24 hours. Nicki Minaj's new video, Anaconda, broke the record. It's now 17 million. 17 million people watched this video in the first 24 hours that it was on YouTube. The end of the video is her kind of giving a lap dance to a guy. It's just a guy sitting in a chair on stage, a big guy, much bigger than she is, much stronger than she is, and she's dancing all over him. And he's just sitting there motionless. And at the very end of the video, he reaches out to touch her butt, and she slaps his hand away, stops dancing, and walks off. And I thought,
so this is your whole point.
That is exactly what I've been saying for the last years, is I want to tempt you, but then have you do nothing about it. You have to control yourself. I can do whatever I want. I can literally shake my butt in your face because that's feminism? Is this feminism?
No, feminism is being able to slap his hand at the end.
Right, and then have him and he actually at the end of the video is he just puts his face in his hands like
I do think
I didn't get what I wanted.
I'm going to kind of disagree with you a little. Yeah. I do think maybe the new definition of feminism is do not put me in a box. I can be as sexual as I want to be.
I can be if I want to.
And I can use my sexuality however I choose.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I can tell you
I'm in charge.
I'm in charge.
It's power.
Right. And so I think...
But it's some kind of strange false power because in the real world, when there are 2 or 3 more stories this week about sexual assault on college campuses. And California just launched the first law that's for all California colleges now, if they want state funding, they have to change their definition of sexual assault to any sexual contact where there wasn't express verbal consent. So even if you say nothing, you don't have to be drunk, you don't have to be drugged or anything. Even if you just don't say anything, it's assault. If you haven't positively. So on that hand, we've got.
So now we have to have agreements. We have to say, I need you to say these words before we kiss.
Sign this.
I need you to sign this.
Can you sign this?
Get it notarized. So yeah, it seems to me like some of this form of feminism is approaching where libertarians are in this highly individualistic, total disregard for the interpersonal, interrelational, interdynamics of a society that what I do actually affects my neighbor and what my neighbor does actually affects me. We want to be in complete denial about that as a civilization, as a culture.
Right.
We want to believe that whatever decisions I make only affect me and it doesn't affect you at all. Therefore, stay out of my...
Unless you touch me.
Yeah, but that's so untrue.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I suddenly decide to paint my house bright pink and rip out the lawn and put in gravel, it's going to affect my neighbor's property values, even though I have not touched their property in any way.
Yeah, okay.
And similarly, when...
Are you saying that Beyonce is like a hot pink house?
I'm saying that it's a complete lie to believe that our personal decisions and actions have no effect on anyone else, and therefore no one else should have any... say into what we do.
Right.
And as a society, when we tell anybody, not just women, but anybody, you do whatever you want as long as you don't immediately affect someone else, that's it. I mean, this is exactly why we have seatbelt laws. Because if people wear seatbelts, it's lower cost of insurance and a bunch of other things for everybody. This is why we have insurance. This is why we have laws against all kinds of things which aren't inherently harmful to someone else, but we make you do them anyway. Child safety seats, also because there is a cost to society. And there is a cost to society of highly objectifying women that they may not see immediately, but we pay for it on our college campuses in these other effects.
Right, exactly. So, and I wouldn't bring it up if it was, just a kind of a fringe thing or, it only happens in New York City. But, when Nicki Minaj puts up a video and 17 million, girls and kids basically sit down and watch it immediately, and
I'm guessing there's older people watching it.
No, just kids and me. I wanted to see what the fuss was all about. But my Christian private school volleyball team, my daughter said the girls were singing the song while they were doing warm-ups, within a week of it coming out. So
yeah, and what bothers me is
our kids.
Yeah, I was watching today, I don't know if you know Ariana Grande, she's the latest hot commodity in the music world.
Does she have a butt?
That was what I was going to say. She was on the Today Show this morning, just with gaggle of girls and guys too, but just tons of kids, starting at the age of 7, and with male and female dancers on the floor of the Today Show, dancing in that same suggestive manner. And I thought the desensitization is what I have a problem with for that age, because it is changing the way we as a society are going to view those things. I
think all these celebrities, when they go do an interview now, should just sit down like Mork did from Mork and Mindy. On his head, so that their butt's sticking up in the air. Because that's really what we're here to see.
And then the audience can rate the butt. 5.7, okay, you can stay.
Do you have a suggestion?
I don't have a butt.
Or a solution?
I have to make that confession. I'm buttless.
What are you sitting on?
My pelvis. What are you sitting on? I really don't. I have to wear a belt or my pants don't stay up because it's in my family line. We do not have prominent posteriors.
So this whole conversation has really just been about your insecurity.
Yeah, I have butt envy. Mm-hmm. I want a big butt. I cannot lie.
You can buy some inserts for that.
I can. Yeah. I could buy some inserts, and then I would feel like I was worthy of being on television.
Mm-hmm. This is why you only perform with puppets.
But it was funny because then they
don't have butts either.
There was a male vocalist that then got to sing on the VMA Awards, and his performance was so starkly different than all the female performances because he stood at a microphone and sang.
Well,
and that's all he did.
This is the double standard, which is, I think, what undermines...
There were no snakes. There was no, rolling around on the ground. He just stood at a mic and sang. It's why they, can't have Adele on the show, because that's what she does. She sings.
That's the thing that undermines Beyonce's argument about, this is feminism, whatever, because when a man can get up and be applauded merely for the quality of his musical performance... Right. But a female artist like Beyonce, who I think we would all agree has amazing musical talent.
Yes, she does.
She can't get a stripper pole. She can't get away with just being a brilliant musician.
Right.
She has to strut her stuff on the stage.
Right. I know.
That's the double standard.
Crazy. All right, let us know, what do you think? Do you think we're crazy? Do you think we're turning into old farts that say, get off my lawn, and it should be the way that it was in the 1950s where none of us were born? Religion, can it be bad for marriage?
Yes.
Yes.
Depends on the religion.
It's a well-worn lament.
It could be any religion.
Heard from many American pulpits, there's just as much divorce inside the church as there is outside. But if pastors and their flocks are embarrassed by divorce equality, then recent findings published in the American Journal of Sociology are likely to give them an even nastier shock. Conservative religious beliefs are not only failing to uphold the marriages of religious conservatives, they are actually destroying their neighbors' marriages too.
Oh, see, here's my whole point.
Dun, dun, dun. What?
Paint your house pink. It hurts your neighbors.
Dun, dun, dun.
Wait a minute.
The recent study. Hang on.
I just want to understand what you just said.
I know. The recent study, Red States, Blue States, and Divorce, makes a straightforward claim. Conservative religious beliefs and the social institutions they create, on balance, decrease marital stability through the promotion of practices that increase divorce risk in the contemporary United States. For example, by discouraging premarital sex and encouraging early marriage, conservative religious institutions unwittingly contribute to high divorce rates, the authors argue. Their analysis finds that communities with large concentrations of conservative Protestants actually produce higher divorce rates than other communities. Jump, jump, jump.
I heard that probably 15 years ago when I was in seminary.
You did?
20 years ago almost. In our counseling courses, it was actually a pretty verifiable fact that...
Well, the study just came out.
I know, but this is not new. It's confirming old notions.
This is old news.
And just statistically, the younger people are when they get married, the higher the rate of divorce.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, communities where people get married young, it's communities where premarital sex is highly frowned upon. So they often get married because...
So therefore, vis-a-vis...
Yeah.
If premarital sex is frowned upon, people are more likely to get married early because they're burning with lust. And getting married early is an indicator of a higher likelihood of divorce.
Right. But,
so if we just let everyone have crazy sex like Beyonce says, then there would be no divorce.
No. So you got to go one step further.
Okay.
The question is, why is it today if somebody gets married at 20 or 22, there's a higher rate of divorce, but 2 or 3 generations ago, that wasn't the case? It's because if you're 22 today, the maturity level of a 22-year-old today is far lower than it was 2 or 3 generations ago.
Emotional, mental,
all of it.
All of it. But physical is more advanced because of all the estrogen in the water.
But think about jobs. People at 22 were entering the workforce are in a very different place than they are today.
Yeah. So the real issue is not getting married young. It's the fact that we have a prolonged adolescence. And a lot of people don't reach a level of self-awareness, maturity of identity, values, things like that until they're much older, and that's the problem.
I just read a statistic that the millennial generation, 30% will not be married by age 40.
Yeah.
40.
And they'll still be living in their parents' basements.
40 and working at Starbucks and or McDonald's, based on your socioeconomic status. But here's the key nuance, and this article is in the Federalist, and it's actually a critique of this study. Here's the key nuance. While religious affiliation makes no difference when it comes to divorce, religious attendance does. And the red state, blue state research fails to make this distinction. So when they look at these areas where there's high, Protestant affiliation and say, okay, but wait a minute, how often do you go to church? Mm-hmm. The ones, the people, even if they got married young or had kids young, if they grew up in part of a religious community, a Protestant church, they're much less likely to get divorced than if they grew up outside of it. And so what the actual conclusion is, let's see. The two groups likely to have the most conservative family values are also least likely to be divorced. High-attending conservative Protestants and high-attending Catholics. So if you're part of a church community, if you grew up in a church community, high-attending conservative Protestant young adults have 34% lower odds of divorcing than do the non-religious, and high-attending Catholic young adults have 76% lower odds of divorcing than the non-religious.
Now, there's an important caveat to that.
What's that?
A lot of people want to make a causal link between regularly attending church
I do.
And lower divorce rates versus a correlative.
Correlative.
Because there's probably a link between a person who attends church regularly probably has certain beliefs and ideas which also tend to diminish their likelihood of getting divorced.
Yeah.
It isn't that going to church regularly causes you to not get divorced.
Right. Although when they interviewed some of these people in the surveys who had gone through hard times and stayed together, they often said it was the support of their religious community that got them through it. Mm-hmm. So there is some causation in terms of being in community. Nominally religious young adults are in a vulnerable position. They are religious enough to be pushed into early marriage, for instance, but lacking the social support mediated by an in-the-flesh religious congregation. They don't reap the benefits of involvement in a religious community. In other words, a little bit of religion can be a bad thing for marriage.
And that's a very well-established biblical truth. Lukewarm, in other words, is not good.
Neither here nor there.
Yeah, and in fact, I think this is a factor contributing to a lot of social problems in the church and in the Bible Belt and in religious communities, is we have effectively, and I've used this phrase many, many times, inoculated people to the Christian faith because they grow up in the church or a somewhat pseudo-Christian community, so they think they're Christian, they think they've got the gospel, and it doesn't end up actually working in their life, and then they chuck the whole thing.
Right.
So, yeah, a little bit of religion is a very dangerous thing. And that's what a lot of churches are good at now, is giving people a little bit of Christian faith, but not really the whole package.
We should work on that.
I think this is why a lot of young adults are leaving the faith.
Yeah. And it's also why it's so important, I was just at a church that has 25,000 people attending on the average weekend. You have to have amazing systems in place for making sure people are actually finding community among 25,000 people. It's if 150 people are coming to your church, it's pretty easy. That's kind of the upper limit on how many people you can be in relationship with. It's about 150. Once you go beyond that, you have to have systems for how you get people into community, because just showing up isn't going to make that much of a difference in their lives. We need community. For working class young adults who marry young, the difference between mere religious affiliation and deep involvement in the life of an actual congregation might be the difference between the death of a marriage and till death do us part, says Charles E. Stokes, assistant professor of sociology at Stanford University. Isn't that interesting? But this is an example, I think, of where you can have studies that are very easy to use to say, religious values don't help, Christianity doesn't help, church doesn't help, it's just as bad there. And someone has to take the time to dive into the research and say, wait a minute, you're assuming, and you hear this a lot, you're assuming that just because this whole group of people checked Christian, or conservative Christian on a survey, that they're all equally engaged. That there's no further distinctiveness, which is why guys, Christian pollsters like David Kinnaman spend so much time, what do you believe and how do you actually act, as opposed to what do you self-identify as. And
it's why we need people like you, Phil, to read the whole article rather than just the headline.
Yes, I do that.
Thank you very much.
But I send them to you and you just read the headline.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
How do you... Do you have any suggestions of how we can turn that tide? Or do you see it happening anywhere in any of the churches that you know? Or
I do. I think this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but I think we need to make church less easy.
Okay, can you explain?
I just wrote an article about this, actually.
Like a cruise ship?
No, not like a cruise ship. I think the overriding value in a lot of evangelical churches has been to make the bar so low in order to get as many people as possible to engage, to get 25,000 people there every weekend. And because we keep the bar so low, we never really expect to train people or teach people the full Christian worldview, the full teachings of Scripture, and we don't expect them to do that. We don't expect them to learn. We don't expect them to change. And so I think we have this tension between wanting to have a really, really big church and wanting to have really committed and deep disciples. And over the last 3 decades, I'd argue, we've faulted in too many of our churches on the size of the congregation rather than the depth of the disciples we're making. And so we may have to sacrifice some of the size of our congregations to make them smaller, to make them more engaging, rather than just cater to people's comfort.
Right. And that who's the new guy at the Southern Baptists? Is it Russell Moore? Is he the,
he's at the
new ethicist?
He's the Religious Liberty and Ethics Commission.
Yeah. And he replaced, was it Richard Land?
Richard Land.
Yeah. So, and he was the one who one of his first real statements that got picked up, he said, the Bible Belt is dead. And it's a good thing, and his response is, there have been so many people that are just along for the ride because it's cultural, because it's easy, because we've made it attractive, because we've made it, look so good. It's not helping anyone to have people that are identifying with this movement but not really moving with the movement. Right. So it's okay that the numbers go down. It's okay that churches get smaller. Because if it's half as many people that are actually walking with Jesus, the impact on the world will be much greater than twice as many people that are just along for the ride. And I think that would play out. Like in some of these scenarios, I think some of these kids, as their culture becomes less culturally Christian, which is a trend across the country, they're less likely to get married too early, just because no one wants them to live together, or because they want to have sex. They're less likely to be influenced by cultural values that are left over from Christianity in a stronger era, and more likely to just say, no, we're just going to do what the world does, and then you'll have more clarity around I'm actually living this.
Well, and it takes homes that actually live it. Well, I've had this just this week. I was talking to my wife. Our kids are starting school up again, and my oldest daughter's in 7th grade now, and I'm unfortunately exposed to a lot of bad things that go on in the church.
Because you watch so much TV.
Well, I'm not watching the music awards.
In the church.
In the church. So I mean, earlier this week I was in New York for a series of meetings that were really discouraging about what's going on in the church. I just see a lot of stuff, and I work with college students who are kind of jaded by them. And so as I think about my own kids, one of the problems I have is a lot of people around me tend to think that, well, the more you immerse your children in the evangelical subculture, the better. The safer they'll be, the more they'll be shaped into Christian values, the more they'll walk with Jesus. And this is some of my own background too, but I kind of feel the opposite. I'm actually worried for my kids the more immersed they get in the evangelical subculture, because I see all the bad side effects. And maybe it's because I'm just not seeing enough of the good stuff. But I'm really worried. I think that the subculture we've created, as Russell Moore is articulating, is doing a lot of damage to the church and a lot of damage to young people. And it gives them the impression that they're Christian without any of the genuine power of the Christian faith. And I really worry that my kids and other kids are being led astray by the popularity of the Christian subculture that really is not forming them to be disciples of Christ.
I've been struggling with this issue so much with my own children, because I was raised in that Christian subculture, going to Christian camp and being in the Southern Baptist Church, and it renovated my life. So it taught me foundational scriptures and everything like that. And as I walked with God, my faith continued to grow and deepen. So I feel like that's the best way to pass that on to my kids. And so when you were talking about religion dividing a household or causing divorce, I thought it meant, somebody in the house being intensely religious and the other one not, and and so my husband didn't grow up that way, and so I've always wanted my children to be funneled into those same culturally Christian things I was, and he hasn't. And in some ways, it's been a good thing because my children aren't steeped in that. But at the same time, as their mom, I wake up every day praying, God, how are you going to get a hold of their hearts? And what's my responsibility as a parent to shepherd them? And it's very confusing when there's no external structure for how you shape your children into God-relating kids.
We want to, here's a 12-step plan, and if you follow these 12 steps, your success is guaranteed. And it's just raising.
It's not.
Raising kids in any regard isn't a 12-step plan. No. Discipling people isn't a 12-step plan. It's tricky. Do you have anything encouraging to say before? Because I'm feeling a little depressed.
Yeah, you can solve all of your life's problems and your family's problems by subscribing to the With God Daily devotional, which will come into your inbox every morning, written by yours truly.
That's a little bit of a hyperbole.
Are there 12 steps for parenting your kids?
No, but there are usually 3 passages of Scripture that you can link to and read every day, along with a historic prayer of the church. And thank you guys for those of you who have subscribed already and have given me feedback on the devotional. It's been really helpful and encouraging, and it's a pretty significant discipline for me to be writing these every day, and I appreciate knowing that I'm not doing it for nothing and that people are learning and engaging and growing from it. So,
wow.
And
where do we go to find it?
skyjatani.com/devo.
That is awesome. And yes?
I was going to say, the way that I come to peace about this whole issue is to realize that every single one of us is on a journey that God has called us on. And ultimately, it's in His hands, where we meet Him and how we walk with them. And that, happens at every age for, different age for every people. So that's the peace I have.
Yeah, and what is encouraging behind all of this is what you already shared from the article, Phil, which is to those who are truly devoted to Christ and are seeking to walk with Him every day.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. Families are different, marriages are different, lives are different. It's when we just have the impression or the pseudo-Christian cultural dynamic, nominal Christianity, that it just fails over and over and over again. So our job as parents, to the degree which we can, is to shepherd our children into genuine communion with Christ.
Okay, I gotta sing now. We're out of time. Oh, Nicki Minaj, I gotta tell you from my gut, I'm kinda tired of looking at your butt on the TV. Can't you just put on some clothes? My daughters don't need this, heaven knows, 'cause feminism shouldn't be about what you can wear or not and look cold or hot on TV. And thanks, Mr. Alligator. Sorry you lost your life. We may see you later. Do alligators come back in the new earth, new heaven, new earth?
Okay.
Okay, good. So, sometime around the tree of life, I hope you bring your gator kids and your cute gator wife, 'cause God made everything and it's all wonderful. Let's raise our kids to appreciate it. But I got nothing. What rhymes with wonderful? Anyone? Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. Thanks for coming. Goodbye. Sorry, I blew that one completely. But
Bye,
I'll see you next
everybody.
week. Next week, we got Drew Dick on the show talking about neuroscience. So bring your brains. See you then.